This is
Shavada. Oh, lost it.
Yeah.
Morning.
Good morning, friend. Okay. So we are on page Tzaddik. We started Ois Mem. And we have gone into the phenomenon trying to explain the other method of Ilavol. The first being where the Olul is contained within the Ilu. In that itself there is also kind of a qualifier, because the midas that are in sechel, contained in the sechel, are not really midas, as we said at the end of that discussion. It's really sechel. Nonetheless, because of his spoilers quality, it has an effect that it ultimately midas come from it. In that respect, it's similar to midas. And the other way of the other system, the method, the Ilu Olul is where the Olul is the ha'ora, comes from the ha'ora of the Ilu. The ha'ora, as we have already discussed, is of a similar principle as the etzem, except it's only a ha'ora. In our discussions, besides what the Rebbe mentioned in the way, but just for our own orientation, we said the phenomenon of being in somebody's home. A home is something which is affected by the owner of the home. That's what a home is. It belongs to somebody. And when you enter this home, you are immediately confronted, you're only affected by the presence of the owner of this home. And there are two states, two levels, where the owner of the home is actually there present. And when the owner of the home is absent, you're still in his home, and you still sense his presence, but not his presence in actuality, only a ha'ora of his presence. It carries the same reality, the same truth, so to speak, the same principle, as when he's when he's in present, but it's not the etzem itself. It's only a ha'ora of it. Okay, then you should stay there. So here's the thing where we're going to start now. So the Rebbe says, right in the onset of this discussion, that the second method of Ilu, where the Olul is the result and affected by the ha'ora from the Ilu, not as a different presence, the ha'ora of the Ilu, this is to be found in the process of moichin itself, of a process within moichin itself, from one level of moichin to another level of moichin. As an example, sechel that comes from the mashpia to the makabel. But the mashpia is giving the sechel to the makabel. He wants him to have his sechel. That's the whole idea that he's giving him. Except he cannot give him the sechel as he himself has it. The etzem is not transferable. What can he give him? This is what I say. He's giving him a glance at the ha'ora. We shall start on the third line of Ois Mem. Even though we need to begin to it a bit. In the middle of that line, thank you, where the word starts, Rak shehu ha'or olavad mesechel mashpia. It is not from the etzem of the etzem of the sechel, and yet it is not a different thing. This is what we said in the ensemble. We talk about ha'ora, that the hashpot comes to ha'ora is different than Yol and the other method. The other method, the midas are contained in the sechel, two different elements, two different truths. Here is the same truth, except the second is a ha'ora of the first. The ha'ora means it comes from the chitzonius, and here is where we need to kind of discuss it and focus in and trying to pin it down. Is it the same thing or is it not the same thing? What is the pshat guf ve'etzem hasechel? Everybody knows what these words mean. Guf ve'etzem hasechel, the body and the essence of that sechel. Says he does not give him guf ve'etzem hasechel. He's giving him a ha'ora which comes from the chitzonius of sechel. What does that mean? So we discussed it a little bit. I want to discuss it more and kind of emphasize certain principles in this. As we said yesterday, the reason that the mashpia is called the mashpia, not the malamed, because he's bestowing to him his truth, not something that he learned, but his truth. You give him a piece of himself. And yet he's giving it to him in the form of sechel. There's a mashpia consistent sechel. Mashpia is not sechel. Mashpia is a real life element. The rotzen, the noinig, and beyond. And here is where we can focus in, if we try, to understand that within the mashpia itself, there are very two distinct levels in his own understanding of the sechel. The primary union of his knowledge of sechel is not sechel at all. It is a truth that is part of his own truth. This he knows because this is how it exists. This is how he lives. This is not how he understands things. He doesn't have any logical support for this principle. This is how it is. That the Rebbe fills the whole reality. That the existence of the world is representing the Mebish's presence. This is not a sechel, a logical process. This is how he lives. For example, I want to demonstrate how the mind process is. I'd like you to follow this. When you walk on the earth, and you know by observation that the earth has a certain size, a certain end, a certain limit. You can even measure it and say what the parameter of the earth is, the circumference of the earth. We know exactly everything. Yet You with me, Shmuel? Yet, we do not perceive when you open the door that we are looking at something finite. We do not have the precautionary thought, I have to watch out where I go so I don't fall off. There is not. Why isn't that concern? Pardon me. I'll give you a moment to reflect. The reason that concern is very similar, clearly on different levels, but very similar to the fetus growing within the mother's womb. It's a separate entity, but it's completely, its confidence in its housing and its support is 100%. The reason that we feel confident and we walk without concern, we don't have to look back and front and side and that we follow nothing, because we are being held, being given that opportunity. This is a reality that's being given to us, and we relate to that reality that gives it to us. It's meant to be that way. This is not an accidental situation. We found a place where we can walk and we walk. As you're walking through a room, when you go to a door, you say, yeah, what's behind this door? Because this is a finite entity, and it's built to be what it is. Whereas the ultimate reality, this is what's meant to give you support in an unlimited manner, to give you a sense of your own reality. That has no end, has no limit. Even though in fact it has a limit.
I'm losing track here. This is a mashal for something. We walk on
so far you understand what I'm saying? But the mashal, I'll explain what the mashal for.
The mashal per se, that we're on a finite world that feels infinite?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's understand what is behind it.
That feels infinite.
What is behind it? Behind it is a sense of reality. There is no physical way. It's not based on a physical criteria. Not based on experience. The principle of reality. Reality means it's given from a higher source for us to feel the presence of this higher source and feel the confidence as the higher source gives it, has it. We're meant to live in the world without concern of falling off. And this is the experience, this is our awareness. We are being supported at 100%. We don't even know how. We're not even aware of this support, but we have this total reality that gives us total confidence. Total confidence. Not the confidence that comes with a question and an answer, but total confidence. But there's no question to begin with.
Okay, two things. To do with the reality. You're saying there's no experience level that's making it
not real.
So our stance has nothing to do with the earth being very firm, or once you fall down you don't fall any further. It's nothing to do with experience. We're talking about reality beyond that.
That's right.
Fine. And then this 100% element, I mean, you don't have to go very far.
What?
You don't have to go very far that people have concerns, Hanasa, or that they're not held up.
No, that's a definitely different level. Talking about the being in the world.
So just this sort of...
This is on a different level. This is
Fine.
on a more functional level.
So
It's like Midas part.
Fine, so just on this fundamental being in the world or standing up, there's no concern, there's no experience basis for it.
That's right. This sense of reality that we have, this is the basis, please understand what I'm saying, is the basis for our intellect.
Oh, this points to the ratzon.
Governance mayhasechel. Everything else is a derivative of that.
It's the basis for our sechel.
So the mashpia, he knows his sechel from that, on that level. That cannot be transmitted to the makam. Mashpia knows this sechel, he doesn't even know how come he knows it. He knows it. He didn't come to it through any kind of process of proofs or not. He knows it. Because he is at the level where he's in touch with his own reality. This he cannot transmit to the tongue, to the makam.
Can he alert the...
One second, let me check. What then is he mashpia to the makam? Mashpia to the makam, that part of the sechel which he knows, not that part of the sechel which is part of his reality. Mayhasechel. How come he knows it? But what he knows it, that he can transmit to the tongue.
Okay, well, presumably the Talmud also has this inner reality, or no?
Right. But
So
the Talmud has not reached it yet.
Yeah, but the mentor, the mashpia, alerts him to it or points him towards
Ultimately, what happens is that the makabel gets the sechel from the mashpia, and as he delves into the sechel, he realizes its source within himself also.
Okay. And then you were saying something about what he does give over to him is
The
not...
continuous, what he observes, what he sees, what he knows. Not how come he knows it, but what he knows.
Yeah.
This, what he knows, is called a ha'ora of the etzem ha'sechel. Because this, what he knows, is not something different than in the etzem ha'sechel, except it's only a ha'ora of that. It's a similar truth, but not at the same level. This is what we speak all the time, that sechel speaks of a truth beyond Metzias, a neshama level truth. That's why we mentioned many times that after one labors in sechel for a long time, he comes to a point and says, of course, it's obvious. So it's obvious. Why were you all this time? He didn't shine through. But in essence, like you said, the makabel also has that truth, but he's not aware of it. that Hashem gives chayas to everything, to every individual person. The neshama is a God, the neshama that was put into him and is being put in him all the time. That is a truth, but he's not aware of it to the extent that he can go and do actions contrary to the principles of that neshama, of the giver of the neshama. How can he do that? He's not aware. In the shine, the brightness of that source doesn't go through him. It's there, but he does not recognize it in his own conscious thinking. His own conscious thinking, he thinks that he depends on what the world provides for him, not what the creator of the world provides for him. And in that realm, he begins to ask, how come I don't fall off the earth? It's a silly question. It's not a silly question. Yes, the earth has a limit. That same question is not a question only when he goes into the depth of it and says, this is not, you're not on the earth, you're on the earth that you're in a place where the Rebbe should put you and gives you support for you to be confident in the Rebbe's reality. Not in the world reality. And when you're doing good, you're not doing good within the worldly parameters, but because it's a Rebbe's world, that's why you're doing good. Good is good because it's a Rebbe's world, not because the world identifies good on its own. On the contrary, take a look. Zdoim has developed a completely different philosophy that to give support to a wayfarer is a crime. Can you imagine that? This is what happened. If you want to create a world, a perception of the world that is totally amitis on its own, this is what happens. So, mayhasechel, from the mashpia to the makabel, is a kind of a transmission, which is called a ha'ora of the etzem ha'sechel of the mashpia. The way it is with the mashpia, it's impossible for him to give, because it's an etzem inyan. But a ha'ora, how he perceives it, how he sees it, how he understands it, from that he can draw that which he can transmit to the makabel. True, like you said, the makabel ultimately works in it, and then he reconnects it back to his own essence, and becomes by him also as real as it was by the mashpia. Ultimately, that's what's supposed to happen.
This is a little bit of a side point, but it relates to the mashpia and the way he sees from above. So it does seem like that means there is just one reality. There's one real map. There's one real terrain.
There's not even a map. There is an akuda.
And he's as if to say, ultimately, every true mashpia is going to say the same thing. Because they're looking at the same,
yes,
true accounts of the same.
Yeah, but two people are looking at the same thing. They can be looking from two different angles. Because what he is giving is what he sees, not what he is. and sees what he sees, there's a whole criteria, the whole dimension. This is why there is Beshama and Beshila.
Yeah, why are they? Why do you have that?
Because they see it from different angles, different ways.
So again, the reality is unitary, is one, yet they are relating different elements of it.
No, from different angles.
They're relating different angles of it. As if to say if they see it from different perspectives?
Yes. For instance, there's Chesed and Gvura. When looking at things from a Chesed and Gvura perspective, there are two principles there. This yes, and this not. Eat this. Don't eat this. Where is your principal emphasis? In eat this or don't eat this?
Right. So that's interesting. So in a certain higher, from a higher perspective, they're kind of saying the same thing. It's just
that's right.
Which one's saying?
Absolutely.
Which one's bringing which?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is why it says by Shama and Beshila. Shama and Hillel. Their Rebbe was Shmaya Naftali. Shmaya Naftali taught them both at the same time, and gave them the same instruction, the same explanations. Shammai took it one way, and Hillel took it another way. Within Shmaya Naftali's mind, which was on a higher level, they saw it from a different continuum completely. They saw both of these from an SM perspective. They didn't have the dichotomy.
Right. And did both Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai acknowledge that the other was an authentic student? They didn't dismiss, or they were dismissive of each other?
No, they weren't dismissive of each other.
Interesting. Okay.
They were debating each other.
Yeah.
All the time.
But they acknowledged they're both real students.
And occasionally, the halacha came out like Beis Shammai. He did not discount Beis Shammai. When they came to a vote, they had a vote.
Right. Now, part of that, we don't have to get into it, is why should reality be unitary? What is that obvious to us?
Because reality is based on the infinite truth, not on a relative, circumstantial truth. Like I said before, you walk on, this is our level, you walk on earth, and I'm confident I can walk this step, not because I see that there's no end to this step, because by principle I know there is no end.
By principle I know that
there's no end. How do I know this? Not because the earth doesn't have end, because it's being presented to me in such a so that I can walk in it in confidence. The Creator has given to me, and since I take it from the Creator. I have full confidence in His gift, so to speak. His gift is never going to be exhausted.
So that points to just a very basic, true experience that every man has.
Yep.
And that bears witness to the fact that there's one reality.
That's right. So now, there are klippers, there are those who have a klipper approach to things. They question this thing in me also. But this is not our thing.
and the fact that from that basic reality, there's a lot of divergence in opinion or in
that's
culture
on a
or
different level. On a different
morals.
level. On a different level, yeah, sure.
Some of which is legitimate, some not legitimate, but it doesn't take
Like we
away
said,
from.
the one said, eat this, and one said, don't eat. Which is the principal instruction?
Right, it doesn't take away from the one reality.
No, not at all. Okay, so we're able to get down to this level to understand the principle of the ha'ara.
Yeah.
This ha'ara is actually a ha'ara from the chitzenius of the etzem ha'sechel, of the reality itself. Okay, again, we're in the third line on that. It's not that which is mashpia, the sechel that is mashpia is not from guf and atzmut ha'meichen shalei, not from the essence of its meichen. In other words, for the essence where he gets his perception. Mashpia, it's not the etzem meichen. Kiyim mibchinas chitzenius. It is only from a chitzenius aspect of his meichen. What is chitzenius means how he observes it, how he sees it. Shehu gamke ha'ara, which is also in the ha'ara. From this ha'ara is what gives mashpia to the makabel. The whole ha'ara, because any ha'ara shabo b'bchinas ilu that comes into the criterion, into the process of ilu v'olu, of being a cause for another effect, to be able to be transmitted to something else. Behechrech, it is imperative shegam ha'ilo hu b'chinas ha'ara, that the ilu itself, the cause itself, is also a ha'ara. Only a ha'ara. Because an etzem does not become, does not participate in ilu v'yolo. Etzem does not have an external view. You cannot observe the etzem. It has no form. Therefore, you cannot participate in ilu v'yolo and cause and effect. In all our discussions, we have all kinds of different illustrations of the principle. I have a brother-in-law, so goes on saying. When he was a child, his imagination was very vivid. And he, as he was walking, he always was a leader of a slew of men. People were following him. He was constantly watching them, directing traffic, so to speak, with his imaginary men. He was once walking with his mother, in the street. He turns around and says, "Hey, don't step on my man! Don't step on my man!" This is how vivid his imagination was. Now, in similar fashion, he said many times, if you have a house, have a home, and in the home there is a dining room, a room that is actually designed to be a dining room. And as we said, that dining room has a table, a projected table before you move the table in there. But are you going to say, don't walk through there because you're walking into my table? That projected table, what's called the essence of the table, of the dining room, not the chitzonius, not the ha'ara. The ha'ara is when you put the table inside. We say no. The reality is how it is, how it emanates from the dining room, the reality itself. That demands it should be a table. The fact that you put a physical table, that's already the ha'ara. And then you say, hey, wait a second, you can't go through ilu v'yolo. This table doesn't let you go through. But the real mitzvah of the table does not affect you. You're walking through. You can walk right through and you don't affect it.
This with the table, or the imaginary man, is to point out what? that by etzem it's completely without form.
Right. And it's very real. This scene that he was imagining people, but a table in a dining room is not imaginary. It's projected. That projected table is more real than the table that actually is standing there. But it's real only in reality level, not in ha'ora level. Hello? Yeah, we got it. This is what the Rebbe says. The whole ha'ora, okay, that end in the fourth line. The whole ha'ora shabo b'pchinas ilu v'yolu. Any ha'ora that comes and participates in the ilu v'yolu process, b'hechrech, it's imperative shegam ho'yilo hi b'chinas ha'ora levad. That the ilo is also only ha'ora, which means it's not the essence as it is in essence, but as it is reflected on the observable level, which is not the essence itself. It's an interesting thing. That which you can see and touch is only ha'ora. That which you're projecting, that's a ha'ora, that's a reality. That's essence. Because that comes there because of the truth of what this is all about. What created it in the first place. We have a few more minutes. I just want to go into the parentheses, so we'll have broken through this barrier. The oir legabe moir eine b'bchinas ilu v'yolu. We said this is a ha'ora. A ha'ora is to be distinguished from oir. Ha'ora is a reflection, and oir is an actual revelation. Oir, legabi moir, oir from the perspective relative to moir, eine b'chinas v'yolu. It's not in the process, in the realm of ilu v'yolu, of cause and effect. We will discuss it now. We have enough arsenal to discuss it. Elo, rather, oy b'bchinas gilu min ha'etzem. Either we explain oyer legabe moyer as a gilu min ha'etzem, as a revelation from the etzem. What did we identify? Do I have you with me?
I got distracted there.
Please. Okay. We are explaining now that anything that participates in the process of ilu v'olu cannot be an etzem. It's a ha'ora.
Okay.
It's not a real presence here, it's only a ha'ora, reflection of it. And in order to bring this home, Rebbe says we have oir and moir. And then we have a ha'ora of the oir. Oir and moir, oir and moir, oir comes from moir. Is moir considered an ilo for the oir or not? Is oir an olo from moir? Ilo is moir and oir is like ilo v'olo.
You may think.
Huh?
It is or
It is not.
It is.
Oir legabe moir is not ilo v'olo. And it's not a ha'ora.
Wait, light is not an effect of a luminary.
That is representative of the luminary, not a reflection of it.
Let's say.
Okay, let me explain. Oyer. Let me explain. This the way discussed. Oyer legabe moyer is not the pina of.
Okay.
For example, this I hope ultimately you understand this. You own a home, and this is not your own home. Your presence fills your home. You're everywhere in every crack and crevice in this home. In what form? Your oyer. It is you, but it's your oyer, not your moyer, your own reality as it goes with you. It's the oyer of your presence. To the extent that we said that if somebody moves into the attic of your home, he's not interfering with your activities, you won't let him stay there. Why not? He doesn't interfere with your activity. But there's no way you're going to let him stay there. He's intruding on you. What is he intruding? He's intruding on your reality. Your reality is present in the entire home.
Oh, this is to say that it's not an effect.
Not effect.
It's you.
It's you.
So to the or from a ma-or is it itself.
This is not a hor.
It's it itself. It's not a reflection. It's not an effect.
Even though this is oyer and this is moyer, and yet it is the reality of the moyer itself. And it's not b'chinas iluviyol. It's not how. How then do we explain the relationship of oyer legabe moyer? So the Rebbe is going now to a lengthy discussion of it. The first statement is elo, or rather oy, either b'chinas gilui me'atzim. It is in the criterion of gilui me'atzim, a revelation from the atzim itself. It is speaking about the atzim, but a gilui of the atzim. Not speaking of something different, of the effect of the atzim, but the gilui of this atzim. There is that reality there. All right. This is the best we can do today. I think we got through yet. Okay, have a great day. This is it.